Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay. If you're new here, hello, welcome. Today is week 4 with Miss Penny. It's already, I don't remember the exact date, but we're coming up on a month of our time together, and we have our first farrier appointment. This was obviously something very new for her, and sorry if you hear my kid in the background. He's definitely talking today. This was one of the first times she had someone new coming out. And so I just had a conversation with my farrier ahead of time saying, hey, she's still pretty wild. She's still learning. So my farrier decided one of the better things to start with is not putting chaps on. While it might not seem like something that's hugely different, it is something that's kind of flapping around. So she decided not to wear chaps and kind of give her some time. She put a couple tools in her back pocket and just was really, really slow with Penny. She understands too that she's a baby. We're still learning. It only showed about a minute of footage of her getting acquainted, but in all actuality, I mean, they stood for a good 5 to 10 minutes of just getting to know each other, which was really, really good. And I really appreciate my farrier for just taking the time with her for sure. This side you can see, this is her offside. She's always been a little bit more wary, so my farrier really took her time and just kind of pet her and let her know it was okay. She's gonna dance around quite a bit, but to talk you through her kind of process while we get through this part, you can see her get a little bit jumpy there. Um, Basically she was just taking the hoof pick and the knife and kind of going through and doing a little bit of trimming, and then she would go through with the clippers and actually clip some edges off. When we're done with this process of getting used to both sides, then she brings out the file. A few things that I did to kind of prep Penny for this as best as I could. Um, you sometimes see in handling conditioning classes that people will pick up the foot and kind of put it between their legs and then kind of slap on the hoof a little bit. That is a great way to start with a little bit of training on farrier work. Um, I did a lot of moving her feet everywhere, so a lot of forward with her feet, stretching backwards, stretching out, picking them up really high, bringing them down really low, and just kind of seeing that she was comfortable with no matter where I had her feet. You see right now she's getting some great scratches. Still a little bit wiggly, that's okay. And one thing I wanted to mention too, during this whole process, you could see I've got a ton of slack in my line. I'm still very aware of where she is, but my goal was to not have a bunch of tension on her face. A lot of times I see people that they're in a tense situation with their horse, and their first response is to grab them right underneath the chin on that lead rope and just put all of this tension on the lead rope. And I just feel like that's an extra stressor at that point. So making sure that I'm watching her eyes, her ears, her muzzle, watching her body, and then responding with either just voice or touch, but always keeping that really loose lead as long as I can. So going back to ways to kind of train them to become accustomed to a farrier coming out and working on them. The other thing I like to do is obviously get them used to a hoof pick. That's easy enough for us to do as trainers. That's not something that the farrier should have to train them for. Um, but I like to take my hoof pick, and with the side of it that's a little bit heavier, I'll take that and kind of slap all around the foot. You can see she got a little bit jumpy there. Just a new spot that my farrier touched, no big deal. So we just kind of walk back around, talk to her, and she eventually will settle down to where we can finish the trim. If you have like an old file, an old rasp, you can use something like that. I didn't have one, but I just try my best to use things that would kind of match what she would be dealing with the farrier tools without actually having those. So using a thing like a hoof pick to kind of bang on her feet, um, definitely getting her used to the brush on the other side of the hoof pick was big. I think I also had some pieces of sandpaper just for like a different feeling and to see if that would make any difference. I really, really, really appreciated the fact that my farrier took her time with her as much as possible. You could see Penny was really starting to lick and chew. Her head was coming down a little bit. She was starting to really calm down and come around to the idea of someone new being near her feet that puts her in a little bit more of a vulnerable position. The other thing that I wish I realized, so for me, I don't ever grab the hair on the back of the foot to pick up the foot. Um, I always just kind of run my hand down the leg and I say foot and they pick their foot up. With my farrier, her thing is she just kind of grabs the hair. And I wish that I had realized that because that's something I would have worked on ahead of time. I just didn't because that wasn't something I thought was going to be necessary, but obviously it would have helped. You can see the rasp she definitely was a little bit cautious about. We didn't do much with this. It was just basically enough to get some of the flare off. I wasn't planning on filming this day, hence why the camera is on the ground and not on the tripod. And you can only see half of the pen, but that's okay. I was really starting to work on getting her to set up nicely. My kind of thought with her from the beginning was, as much as I want to praise the little things as much as possible, I want to aim for perfection in the very beginning. So the fact that we're in week 4 and I was working on getting a setup or doing haunches and forehands, I think that doing that so early and striving to get better and better every day really helped with the time we came around to the competition. She was almost pro at that stuff.
Good.
You'd see her back was a little bit crooked, but it wasn't bad.
Pay attention. Good girl.
When it comes to the setup for this stuff, at this point, I'm just trying to get her to just move one foot or the other and ideally get it close to where I want it to be, but it didn't have to be perfect.
Good. Easy.
This is the other thing that I wanted to mention about this one. In my previous video, week 3, we did haunch turns and forehands at Liberty, and it was fantastic. It was only a step or two, but
Good girl.
it is a little bit frustrating for me to go through those Liberty stages and have such smooth responses to now you can see that she's just kind of getting stuck and it's almost like she's forgetting it. And it just goes to show that while people have their off days, horses have their off days too, and that's okay. She's obviously improved tenfold at this point, but I just thought that was important to mention.
Move your booty. Good. Yes. Good girl. Good girl.
You can see that she stepped really balanced with her front end. I don't know what she was doing with her back foot, but
Good girl. Those back feet. What are we doing there?
so you can see she kind of stepped forward a little bit with both feet, but the fact that she moved those 2 feet back just a little bit when I asked for that was excellent. So that's where I wanted to stop with that. Here you can see what I was talking about earlier, kind of picking up the feet, slapping them, just see what they will do with that, trying to get them as quiet as possible for that extra movement, if that makes sense. Extra movement, extra sound. This was all about stretching, so I did a lot of forward stretching. I'm usually really careful when it comes to stretching just because I don't want to do something wrong. But you can see here I kind of move my hand up, help support the knee a little bit, and just see what she was doing. I don't know that she was getting a ton of stretch right there, but more of just the range of motion aspect. And I loved that she put down her foot so quietly, and she put it exactly where I wanted her to put her foot down, not just picking where she got to do it on her own. A little bit of a stretch there. The back end I'm always cautious with, just because obviously I don't want to get kicked. And when they do kind of pull, I definitely relax a little bit and let them slowly come back into it, because again, I worry about something pulling or tearing. Here, I was kind of pulling out a little bit. See, with that range of motion, everything's always done really slow and cautious. And see, she's very understanding for the most part of what down means, getting her to drop her head down. For me, I think it's important because she's going to be tall. So check out my string testing video because she's going to be freaking tall. We did a little bit of jumping to see what she would do, and you could see her kind of pop her head up a little bit. She was definitely watching, but she kept her feet planted, and it was fantastic. And we still just dropped our head down. So
Good.
the nice thing is I've got my little treat pouch on, and so that creates a lot of sound too. She was doing fantastic. So that is it for today's video. I know it wasn't a ton of footage this week, and next week's not a ton of footage either, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye guys!